good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center and his Genesis class. This is always an exciting class. He's been going into depth for over a year with us on little bits of Genesis that are big, profound ideas, and we just love hearing the oral tradition and what the Hebrew people have to say about the Torah. It's always exciting, and we've got Lee Fogel usually sharing Brit Shalom with us. This is just exciting as well, so let's just jump right in and see how the rabbi's doing. Rabbi Goldberg, always good to be with you, sir. We missed you last week. We know you had Passover, but we're glad to be with you today.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody, for participating. I also missed you. It was a wonderful week with my family. And this is what we need to do from time to time.
They still have today.
Yes,
tomorrow is their last day, actually.
Angela, if you could turn your mic off.
It is. They enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was fine. Everything is fine. And now we came back to the regular basis of things that we're going to learn. We're going to learn the Genesis, and also we're going to learn from Brit Shalom book. Michaela, show us the Brit Shalom in Italy. Show us in Italy. It's hard to see you because of the background that you have.
Oh, she's got the backlit. Okay. So the cover is actually in Italian, Rabbi?
Yeah, yes. We have Brit Shalom in Italy, and so you can show us in German. Okay, you see, this is a German one, and we have an Italy one. And we have an English one. The English, not the real English, not like, in England. They don't really know English. We spoke about this already. Fine.
Sorry, Rabbi, but it's not English, it's American.
It is.
Now, Rabbi, do we have it in Spanish as well?
Yeah, of course. We have it in Spanish also. We have this also in... Also
Chinese? Now, you were working on Chinese, if I recall.
We have also the Chinese. You can buy it in Chinese if you want, if you wish. We have it in Chinese. We have in Italy.
And French?
In French, we don't have it done here yet, but it's almost done. The French one. We have in Portuguese. We have in Chinese. We have in Spanish. We have in German, Italy.
Excellent.
And also of course, and we're continuing on. We have also in the Czech Republic, Czech Netzach, but this is not in a book yet. It's only on the internet. So we have also this language, but fine, slowly, but we'll capture all the world, so it will be okay. Now let's learn a bit of the Genesis stuff. So I will share the screen and we'll jump straight ahead inside. In our days now, we are learning about Abraham, and we're going to go inside tonight for a lot of interesting, important points. So let's go back here, because we're going to go now, as I explained already the last time that we spoke, I'm going to go now much deeper inside to the Shem family. And the representative of Shem is Abraham and his wife. And from there on, we're going to concentrate more and more about this family. We explained this last night. So let's read for a moment again, after God is saying to Abraham, okay, go forth from your land and from your birthplace and from your father's house to the land I will show you, that I will show you. He's not telling you what land it is. And then he's saying to him, then we see in verse number 5, please read verse number 5. We read it already, but I want to mention a few things.
And Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had acquired, and the souls they had acquired in Haran, and they went to go to the land of Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan.
And we spoke about this verse already more than once, but I want to mention something that I didn't mention yet. And this is the word, and Abraham took Sarai, okay? Now we know already from the chapter before this chapter that Sarai was a, you see in verse number 30, please read it.
30, and Sarah was barren. She had no child.
So what we have here, basically, we have here that Abraham, who is supposed to continue with the dynasty of Shem, doesn't have children. So with whom is going to continue this dynasty? So we said that he took, he created, he brought a lot of people under the understanding, the mindset of God. And those are the people that he took, but he also took Lot. And he also took Sarah. He took with him Sarah. And it says here, Vayikach Avram. You see here? Vayikach is that he took her. Now I'm asking you, did he force his wife to take her? He took her. How exactly can you take someone? The way that you're taking people, and it's already being said in Genesis chapter number 2. Please read verse number 15.
15. Now the Lord God took the man, and he placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it.
The same thing, God took the man. Let's read Rashi for a moment. What is exactly the meaning of took the man?
He took him with pleasant words and enticed him to enter. And that's from Genesis, Rabbi 16:5.
And this is a key place, because we have along the Bible something like in the part of the Parsha, the Torah part, we have something like 8 places where it says that someone took someone else, just like we see also with Abraham. And we need to understand that always when the Bible is saying this, he is speaking about a situation where someone got pleased of coming with the other one, okay, in his mind, with pleasant words. His will came with him, because to put someone without his will and without the pleasant words that he will accept this situation, it's not taking him, it's forcing him, it's taking only his body. His mind is somewhere else. His will is somewhere else. So we see already here that God, when he's taking men, he is doing it in a pleasant way, in a pleasant words. He's not forcing men to be in the Garden of Eden. He's explaining him, he's convincing him, he's talking with him in a pleasant way. So man Adam will decide for himself also to be there. Okay, and the same thing we're speaking here with Abraham and Sarah. This is important to know, because we'll see this again in Jacob also when he is speaking with his wives. And this is one of the places where we see that the connection between the man and his wife is not a connection of someone who is, we'll say, is mastering, and the wife is some sort of the object. They are togetherness, and they are supposed to speak one with each other. And this is what we see also with Abraham. So it's written down here, and Rashi already explained this in chapter 2, so he doesn't supposed to explain this here. This is how Abraham took Sarah with him. But we have a problem, and the main problem that we have, that they don't have any kids yet, and Sarah doesn't have kids. So who is going to continue Shem dynasty? Who is going to continue this thing? Because God told him, don't bring all those people that you acquired in Haran. Don't bring them with you. But he took Lot. Lot is a nephew. And this is where we see in verse number 6 that Abraham is passing along the land, okay? And then suddenly something is happening that is a bit surprising Abraham. And please read verse number 7.
7, and the Lord appeared to Abram, and he said, to your seed I will give this land, and there he built an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him.
Now, what exactly? It's important also to read the Rashi for a moment.
And there he built an altar in thanksgiving for the good tidings concerning his descendants and the good tidings concerning the land of Israel, from Genesis, Rabbah 39, 15, and 16.
Okay, so suddenly God is appearing to him and saying to him, no, don't get confused. you're going to have a son. He's 75 years old. He is a bit, I will say, desperate. He thinks that he won't have any kids, and God is saying to him, no, don't be hesitate. Don't hesitate. Don't be afraid. I'm promising you, you will have a son, and your kids are going to inherit this land. And God, everyone is very, I will say, happy for this situation, and he's building up an altar. Please read verse number 8.
8. And he moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent. Bethel was to the west, and Ai was to the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and he called in the name of the Lord.
We see another altar. Okay, this is the second one. Why do we have another altar? What we're saying here basically is that Abraham is climbing with the knowledge of God. He is getting more and more closer to God. He is getting more and more understanding of the knowledge of God. This is why he's building another altar, and this one is already calling in the name of the Lord, name of God. He is in one step ahead. We need to realize that, and then we have another very important verse. Please read verse number 9.
9. And Abram traveled continually, traveling southward.
Where exactly does he is traveling? So Rashi is showing us, and please read Rashi for a moment.
Continually traveling, literally going and traveling. He traveled in intervals, staying here for a month or more, traveling from there and pitching his tent elsewhere. And all his travels were southward to go to the south of the land of Israel, and that is to the direction of Jerusalem. The meaning is that Jerusalem was in the middle of the word and the end of the land of Israel. So it is explained in Isaiah, which is in the territory of Judah, who took his portion in the south of the land of Israel to Mount Moriah, which was Judah's heritage, from Genesis, Rabbi 39:16.
This is enough. Okay, so what we're saying here, that Abraham was taking himself towards Jerusalem. What do we have in Jerusalem? Who knows? At this point of time, we will see it in another 2 chapters. Another 3 chapters, we will see it. We have there the son of Noach, Shem is there, okay, and also Aber is there. Those are the 2 people that started this dynasty of Shem and Aber. Okay, Aber was his forefather, so he is going to them. Now, I will tell you a secret. It took him 52 years. There were a lot of things inside between the time that he was here until the time that he came to Jerusalem. It will take him time. There's another very important word I want to mention on this situation. So this is basically, I will say, the framework of what's happening. Abraham is trying to move towards Jerusalem and to learn and to understand more God. God is promising him that he will have kids and they will inherit this land. There's another very important point here that I must say. There is in verse number 6, we say that then Abraham passed through the land. Okay. Now the word passed is very interesting because usually what we say is Abraham moved, Abraham drove from one side to another, Abraham. The word passed in Hebrew is from the word vaya'avor. You see here, vaya'avor. If you look closely inside, you will see that those are the letters of the word Abel. You see, Abel, I'm pointing only the letters of Abel. Abel, we said, is the forefather of Abraham. Abraham Ivri. Abel, the same word. What we're saying here, and this is something I mentioned already in the 2 weeks ago, or when we spoke 2 weeks ago, that those places that he is working from place to a place, it's not only moving from one place to another, it's also changing his identity to become back a Hebrew man. The word Aber here is Hebrew, okay? He is passing, vaya'avo. He is not only moving from one place to another, he is becoming a Jewish person, not Jewish, sorry, a Hebrew person, okay? He's becoming a Hebrew person. Jewish is only the Judah side. Hebrew person is containing all the 12 tribes. He's moving on to become a Hebrew man. And we need to learn now what are the things that Abraham is passing that will bring him to become a person that is, as we call, a Hebrew man, and then his son Isaac will be born. Not before that, because until he won't be in the stage that he can continue this dynasty of Shem and Ader, so Abraham won't have any kid. But God is saying to him, you are going to become on this stage, you are going to become part of the Hebrew people, okay, what you lost, what all of the Hebrew people lost before. You're going to come back to this stage, and then you will have the son, and from there on, the next generation will come. Till then, everything is done. So we need to see exactly what happened. And the first thing that is happening after those promises is what is written down in verse number 10. Please read verse number 10.
And there was a famine in the land, and Abram descended to Egypt to sojourn there because the famine was severe in the land.
We need to read Rashi for a moment, and then we will start to explain.
A famine in the land, in that land alone, to test him, whether he would think ill of the words of the Holy One, blessed be he, who ordered him to go to the land of Canaan, and now he was forcing him to leave it from,
This is from Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, okay? It's a very, very, very old midrash that we have. Now, this is, I will say, the first step that God is trying Abraham, or is trying to build him up, I will say like that, Abraham, from after he told him that he needs to come to the Hebrew land. And now we need to, it's very important, as Rashi is mentioning, only at that land alone we had this famine. Our sages are saying that till then there were never famine in this world. By the way, in the archaeology, when they're searching all the things in the area of the Mediterranean Sea, they say that there was a very, very, very big famine here in those times, and it's also comparable with the archaeologic time, okay, this famine. But what our sages are saying, this was the first time that there was a famine in the world, and only in this land. And why that? Because God is trying Abraham, he's trying to see if he will wander after God. God told him that this is the best land of the world, and suddenly there's a famine here. Now, we need to realize, and this is very important, that when God is promising Abraham that he will get this land, it's not saying that Abraham won this land. He didn't do anything to win this land, to gain this land, to have, to bring this promise to reality. God promised him. That's it. That's it. You're getting it? You know, a lot of times it's the simple psychologist of every person. I knew someone, I'm speaking about 25 years ago, even more than that, almost 30 years ago. I knew someone who won the lottery. The lottery, you know, we all over the world we have this lottery, right? It's not only in Israel. He won a very, very big amount of the lottery, okay? It took him 8 years to spend all of the money that he won because it was a very big amount. But he spent everything. He didn't manage to keep anything. And it's usually this is what's happening. Because if you're winning something without any effort, so you're losing it on the same way that you gained this thing. God promised Abraham that he's going to get this land. But Abraham also needs to do few, I will say, actions to want this land, to say to himself, I want this land. Not only that God gave it to me, it's important for me, I need to do some effort of getting this land. So sometimes, even though you're getting the promise, you need to lose the promise, okay, and to gain it for yourself. Point number one, okay, and this is what we said before in this word of vayavor. Vayavor, this very special word of vayavor, is saying that God is building up Abraham with all sorts of the testimonials or test points to bring Abraham to a situation where he really related with God and really want everything that God promised him. And he's willing to do a lot of things to win those things that God promised him. To become, again, a Hebrew man. Okay? This is something that we need to realize. And this is how it's starting. The first thing, or the first, it's all, by the way, it's a fourth thing, but I won't go inside to the three before. We spoke about them, even though I didn't mention them in the best way. I want to jump for a moment, okay? I want to jump for a moment on this story and to remember that this story have a very similar story to the story of Jacob, his sons, and all of the family of Israel. It all starts with that there's a famine in Canaan, in the Hebrew land. Also with Jacob and his sons. They're going to Egypt. Why? Because of the famine, right? When the Hebrew people are going out, we just celebrate Passover. People told me that today it's the Easter time. Okay? It's something all the way different thing. But we just celebrated Passover, not this thing. When the Hebrew people are going out, before when the Hebrew people are going out, let's see for a moment what is happening. When he's going out from Egypt, please read verse number 1 and verse number 2.
And Abram came up from Egypt, he and his wife, and all that was his, and Lot with him to the south. And Abram was very heavy with cattle, with silver, and with gold.
And why that? Because the Egyptians gave it to him, all those things. And also with the Hebrew people, we know that when they went out from Egypt, they went out with a lot of silver, gold, and all of those things. And they built also the tabernacle from one side, and they also did the golden calf from the other side. Okay, we'll speak about this when we'll be in Exodus. When we'll speak about Exodus. Another thing that we know is that please read verse number 17. When
17, and the Lord plagued Pharaoh with great plagues, as well as his household, on account of Sarai, Abram's wife.
Why is that? Because Pharaoh took Sarah. So God punished Pharaoh. And we know that the Egyptians also got 10 punishments because they took, how did they say? All the sons throw to the river, and only the women live with us. The same thing, the same ideology of throwing the men aside and taking the woman. And this is what's happening here. And therefore, he's getting punishment. So it's a very similar story that happened with Abraham, and then it will happen also with his kids, with his dynasty. Okay, first of all, we need to remember, we need to know that a lot of things that happened to our forefathers also happened after that to us as the Hebrew nation. And basically, Abraham, I will say, it's like a prototype. I'm saying it in the right way, Dan.
Prototype, yes.
Yes, it's like a prototype. This story of Abraham with Sarah is a prototype of what will happen also to the Hebrew people after that. Okay, the similar things will happen to them also. There's another thing that I want to mention here before we will go inside to what's happening here. Please read again verse number 10.
10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram descended to Egypt to sojourn there because the famine was severe in the land.
Why is the verse saying to us twice that there is a famine in this land? Why do we need to say it twice? We already know from the beginning of the verse that there was a famine, okay? You want to say
Severity?
that it was very heavy? Say that it was very heavy, but why to say it twice? Our sages are saying that it's reminding something else. And I want to explain here what is happening in behind the scenes of this story, okay? It's reminding, just a moment, let me first of all go to another famine that is happening in our days. Okay, it's in chapter 8. Okay, I'm also saying that see here, chapter 8. Let's please read verse number. Number 11.
Behold, days are coming, says the Lord God, and I will send famine into the land, not a famine for bread, nor a thirst for water, but to hear the word of the Lord.
Okay, there's a very interesting famine. There's a famine of the bread, and there's also the famine of the words of the Lord, the word of God. And what is hinted here, okay, is that there was a famine of the bread. But what happened here also, now listen good to what I'm going to say, because it's a very heavy issue. What happened here is that Abraham, as the last Hebrew person, went out from Babylon. And basically, since then, Babylon lost, it was a very big culture, and it lost it. And Abraham understood that Babylon is vanishing through the history. And he asked himself, what is the next culture that I can influence in the right way to bring them to the right behavior in front of God? And the main culture that he understood that is starting to raise up is the Egyptian culture. So he said to himself, there's a famine, but it's also hinting me that there's also a famine to hear the words of God in this place. So he said, I will go there and I will teach them the words of God. What will happen along history, that the Hebrew people came to a lot of places and they have been there, they helped a lot with the economy, with a lot of things. And when they left, the place drained down. It happened in the old Egyptian place, okay? They had the pyramids, they had all the mummies, they had a lot of things that are giant things still today. We don't know exactly how they did all of those things. And after the Hebrew people went out from there, the Egyptians vanished in the history. And it happened also with Rome. It happened also with Spain 500 years ago when they kicked up all the Jews, and after 100 years, they lost the big battle there, and they lost the glory of the history. It happened also, you know what? There are places in Europe that are telling me all the time when I'm coming there that since the Second World War, that they took out all the Hebrew people, all the Jewish people from Europe, so they lost also a lot of the glory in Europe. We know that Europe is not the most important empire today. Don't say that. This is something that is happening along history. It starts with Abraham. And when it says here twice that there was a famine, it's hinting not only the famine, the real famine in Israel, in the Hebrew land, but also the famine of the knowledge of God, the words of God. So Abraham said to himself, let's go to this culture and start to teach them to see what's happening there, to show them the right way. It failed. Next week, we're going to speak about this more. It's also a very big question what's happening here, because still we have a question with Abraham. How come the one who had the ability to stand in front of Nimrod, okay, this big king, and to say to him, I believe in God, who created the world and created the heaven and earth and everything else. And Nimrod is saying to him, I will throw you to the fire. And he threw him to the fire. And Abraham said, I don't care, I will get killed and everything else. And even though he stood in front of everything, suddenly, please read verse number 11.
11. Now it came to pass when he drew near to come to Egypt that he said to Sarai his wife, behold, now I know that you are a woman of fair appearance.
So it's a question, we need to learn this verse, okay? Well, how come it's 75 years old already? Suddenly, now I know that you're a very nice person. Very nice. It's very nice to say that. I think that he knew already before that. Something here is weird a bit with this verse. But it's interesting to see in verse number 12 that he is saying to him, to Sarah, let's do a trick against the Egyptian people. Because we know Abraham, and Abraham is much more a strong person, okay, and believing person than doing all those tricks. So we need to understand what exactly is happening here. And those are things that we will speak next week. What we saw today, we saw, first of all, that we're starting to realize that there are stories here that are trying to teach us how Abraham is growing up, okay, to become the Hebrew man from our forefathers, okay, Abraham and Shem dynasty. And this is basically what is happening here, that Abraham is moving on, passing on from one place to another. And we started to touch that Abraham went to Egypt and to start to understand his ambitions, his will, why he wanted to go to Egypt. So we just touched those things. And next week, we're going to speak in much deeper understanding what exactly happened there in Egypt and what exactly God was questioning, and how exactly Abraham behaved to bring the answers for what God was questioning.
Beautiful.
Questions till now. I saw that in the chat there are a few questions. Just a moment, as usual. Michaela, Shalom, hi from Italy. Travis, it's okay. I was a teacher a long time ago, so I'm not writing down who came late and who came at the time. Everything is fine. My question is here.
Well, Rabbi, we have.
Yes, but especially in those days, all the things of the timing was a bit different. So I maybe we will explain this when we will come to the Isaac thing. Maybe I will explain this more when we will come to Abraham, that he gave birth at 100 years old. Okay, I will explain this a bit more. What is exactly happening there?
Rabbi, if you can please just read the question aloud for the audience that can't see the chat.
Okay. Everybody can open the chat.
I know, but we have an audience in YouTube or something.
Not a problem. The question was, since the age of full adulthood is 20, and Isaac was born in his 100 years of Abraham, did he have to go through to set of 40 years to become elevated enough to bring a totally righteous son into the world which he lived? So I'm saying it's a bit more complicated. I will speak about this when we will speak about why Abraham gave birth only when he was 100 years old. Okay? Michaela is asking, it is stated that a non-Hebrew that lives idolatry may be considered a Hebrew. This is because such non-Hebrews is there are two words, okay? There is the word, all the time I'm using the word Hebrew, and there is also the word Jewish. Those are two different words, okay? The Hebrew is all the 12 tribes, and the Jewish is only the Judah and the Judah, Benjamin, and part of the Levites, okay? Now, when someone is living the idolatry, so he's like the Jewish people, because the word Jewish is to admit on God and not to admit an idolatry. So when someone is living the idolatry, he is in some sort of way very connected to the Jewish conception. Okay, when a non-Hebrew is living the idolatry, so he's not being called, or he's not considered Hebrew. He's considered related to the Jewish people and also to the Hebrew people, because God said since then. But it's more related to the Jewish people, okay, not to the Hebrew people. If there are one or two questions more, if not, we'll pass it on to Lee.
Rabbi, we had Michaela P. on YouTube ask, where is it again with the famine? Where exactly was the famine happening? Was that right in the area of Jerusalem where Abraham was journeying?
The famine was in the Hebrew land. I'll show this again. It's written down, and it's also said in that land alone. Okay, in the land of the Hebrew people. The Hebrew people land is what we call today Israel state. Okay, the Israel state. This was the Hebrew people. Usually when people were doing, so in all of the Hebrew land, it was the famine. Okay, and it's written down. Yes, there's more on the chat. Okay, Michaela, it's in the English version or in the Italian version? Yes, Michaela is saying in the chat that we wrote down those words in the exact way in the Brit Shalom book, in chapter 4, okay? Clause 5, that whoever rejects idolatry is called a Jew. It's true, this is this is exactly what I said. And this is related with our sources. Fine. Fine. Okay, we came to the version of Lee. Lee, very good to see you.
Hi, Shavua Tov, Rabbi Chaim. Shavua Tov, everybody.
We see that you have a bit of it's hard to come back after are you feeling good?
I'm not 100%. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but so I might keep it a little bit shorter tonight. But I'm feeling generally okay. We had a nice holiday with the kids, so I didn't want to give up on another week of our Brit Shalom learning. So let me just share my screen. And we'll just repeat our plug in our plugs in the past for whoever to pick up a copy of Brit Shalom, the daily living for Noahides, practical application of Noahide laws, either in physical form if you can, and as I said, it's being translated into more and more languages, or also in electronic form, and practical questions that you have, guide them to direct them to the website. I'll get fresh content up there also for your own benefit. And for others, I can certainly say it's been beneficial for me. So keep the questions coming. Okay, so it's been a couple of weeks. We'll just recap where we're holding. We're holding here in the third section after the foundation and chapters on what I termed man and God, the laws between man and his fellow, the preservation of human life, the sanctity of the family. And we're holding in chapter 7 about status of possessions, robbery, what is considered robbery, accepted practices between employer and employee, etc. And we're near the end of this chapter, chapter 7, and we'll move on to also to animals, animal rights, animal suffering. Okay. All right. I think that we left off more or less around these clauses, so I apologize if we do a little bit of repeating. Okay, we talked about delaying wage to a laborer. Okay, so we said there that, let's say you have, I'm reading here in clause 12, I'm not reading word for word. If you have somebody say, a painter or something of the sort, come and do kind of work for a day. Basically, the kind of the general thrust, the general recommendation is to set expectations, to communicate properly. There are things that are commonly done at the end of, but nevertheless, practically speaking, if somebody expects their wage, then they need to find an arrangement for that. I think it was Harish who asked about rent. It's a great practical question. Actually, I should write it down and see what the practical law is. But I think basically what we said was a person is not refusing to pay. They just don't have what to pay. So it's a little bit of a different circumstance. But nevertheless, I can try to get a practical answer. Okay. And common. How about common practices in the workplace? Okay, so we have a clause here talking about laborers in a field or in an orchard, but I think we said last time, and if not, then it came to my mind while I was reading it. Okay, so here, a laborer in a field. If while he's working, if it's permissible for him to take a couple of fruits here and there while he's harvesting. Okay, so to do so in kind of like a happenstance fashion, it would be permissible. But to go and to kind of plan out, okay, I'm going to go and bring 3 boxes and I'm going to take these home and I'm going to start collecting. This is going to be forbidden because it's basically after hours. It's after his working hours. And what I was thinking about, practically speaking, in say more modern office work type scenarios, is using office supplies. Right. So again, basically, the general idea is to communicate, to communicate what is an accepted practice, right? Because as we'll see also in clause 16, there are certain things that are kind of generally done. Say, kind of checking your email on company time, or speaking to your spouse, or you got to go make an arrangement for a doctor's appointment. These are things technically you're doing on company time, but they're very common. They're very commonplace. So it's kind of commonly accepted. The general idea is like things that that your employer would be unhappy with, avoid. Things that are commonplace and everybody does them, then they're permissible. And basically, when in doubt, go ask. It's better to set the expectation. You'll be sanctifying God's name. You'll be an upright. People will respect you for being an honest and upright person. So when in doubt, ask. Okay, the prohibition to rob applies to every monetary value, even if it is less than a penny. So, you could say nobody's going to notice, right? All right, there was a funny movie from the 90s, in America at least, called Office Space. And there they have this long scheme where they're going to basically shave off, like minuscule fractions of a penny that nobody will notice into a bank account. And over millions of transactions, it'll add up to a lot of money, and and they'll cash out. You could say it's not really stealing because nobody notices. Okay, but here it's quite clear, right? There's even in the realm of between man and his fellow, right? God's providence fills the whole world, and we need to this is the definition of being God-fearing people. All of these I'm reading now in clause 18. All of these prohibitions are nullified if the disadvantaged party forgives the person who caused him financial loss or used his possessions without authorization. Okay, so a person kind of accepted the reality. So it's as if they've pardoned, right? In English, you say to pardon. Okay, so it becomes nullified. Clause 19, the robbery prohibition applies to violations of laws instituted by a nation with a system of laws regarding financial matters, okay, which is basically any modern society. And as we'll see later on, there's like a general principle which is called dina de malchuta dina, that the laws of the state are considered law, right? So they're not only civil law. We'll see later the specifics, but basically any civil law that does not directly contradict Noahide law is a religious duty to follow. Okay, so as we said, right, the statement of our sages in Pirkei Avot, to pray for the robustness of the government, right? Because without a working society, without a working government, without a working social order, everything collapses, and nobody really knows if what he's working for if he'll actually see the fruit of his labor, and society can fall apart very quickly. Okay, so this is the general concept. It's a general concept of following the laws of the state, again, where they don't expressly contradict Noahide law. And 20, the laws and customs of a nation determine fines and punishment in financial matters, and in certain situations, non-enforcement of these laws. Altogether, these penalties or lack of them constitute society's forgiveness, exempting transgressors from more severe punishment. Okay, so like the specifics on what the I think it's quite clear. It's determined by each government, by each culture's accepted law. Okay, moving on to proper conduct, more in the realm of kind of the spirit of the law. 21, the robber must return what was taken. Object that was taken is still in his possession. He returns what was taken. However, if the object was lost or completely damaged, he gives back the value of the object. You could ask yourself also what happens if if he still has the object. I think we said this, I don't know, with a car or with something that's like, it gets used through wear and tear. So what happens if the person returns it, but he used it in such a fashion that it actually decreased in value? Okay, so, practical implication. And a robber who wants to completely make up for what was done, appease the person who was robbed. It's not only giving back, it's also having the guts to look the person in the face and say, I took what was not mine. I apologize. Please forgive me. And at the same time, it is highly praiseworthy for a victim of robbery to forgive the robber. The person was in a very hard place. His value system was very lopsided and wants to make amends, wants to return to the good path. And this is not only in this realm, but in general, learning, we say this before Yom Kippur, right, the Day of Atonement, that finding within us to forgive a person who has wronged us is very, very praiseworthy. To truly look him in the face and say, as we say in Hebrew, machul lecha, it is totally forgiven for you. It is erased. It's a very hard thing to do, and is very praiseworthy. And here we're saying it in the realm of stealing. 22, it is forbidden not only to purchase a stolen object, but also to partner with or assist a thief or a robber in any way. Okay, so don't be a party to such activities. So you can ask yourself, how far do we need to go to see the straightness of my supplier? I'm going to buy something from somebody. Do I need to make sure that it's coming from a good source? But certainly, where somebody's that has crooked business practices, not only is it praiseworthy not to do business with him, as we said above, with regards to clean speech, it would be praiseworthy to speak to others about avoiding such a person, right? Okay, we mentioned this in the past, but here again, the practical application. If someone stole from the public, okay, so we said Ponzi schemes, etc. People misusing accounting practices, etc. If someone stole from the public and wants to make restitution, wants to make up for what he did, it should be made to the same public entity involved, right? So basically, filling up the lack that we created. But if this is not possible, I don't know, let's say the company closed down or the organization is no longer got swallowed up or something, it no longer exists. So nevertheless, the money stolen should be contributed to another cause that benefits the public. Okay, as we said, this is a very difficult trial, a very difficult test. Because when a person wants to come and make restitution, wants to make up for what he did, oftentimes doesn't know exactly who he took from, exactly how much he took from each person, and so when there's theft or when there's wrongdoing between two parties, one and the other, it's simpler to make teshuvah, to make repentance. Here it's a lot more complicated, but nevertheless something that could benefit the public. Okay, straight out of the 10 good ones, the 10 commandments, no one should lust for the money of another. Okay, we should, be working as hard as we possibly can to use, the physical and mental tools that Hashem gave us to do as much as we can in the realm of livelihood, etc. And we should somehow find it in our heart to, maybe we can find inspiration from those around us, right? I heard Rabbi Sachs, blessed memory, say that a person is the average of the 5 people he spends the most time with. Okay, so it's good to be around those who pull you up. Either you see a guy, he's working really hard and he's really successful. So not to lust for what he has, but to be inspired by what he has, to try harder. I heard actually an amazing story about. I don't remember if it was a victim of COVID, but somebody who passed away in the past couple of years, one of the Chassid here in Israel, and it was told of him that not only would he rejoice if he had competition in his neighborhood, he would actually go and help his competitors set up shop. Right? That's tremendous piety. To have so much trust in God that, look, I'm doing whatever I can, and the end result is truly, at the end of the day, always going to be in the hands of God. And so much trust, so that I can even go and help my competitors. This is obviously a tremendous level of piety, but at the end of the day, this is the bare minimum, not to go after and lust what others, here in the realm of money, but as you all know from the 10 Commandments, it applies to other things. 25, slavery is indecent and has no rightful place in our world. You could ask yourself, so what about all the commandments that speak about slavery? Okay, these are basically dispensations. What happens in certain situations where a person needs to be sold into slavery because he didn't have enough money, or if a person robbed, and therefore the court put him into slavery for restitution. Okay, but these are dispensations. It's not that the Torah is coming to say that slavery is a value ante facto, that like we strive to have slavery in our world, right? At the end of the day, right, as we read in the Hallel prayer that we read during the holidays, we want to be free from the slavery of man and move towards the worship or the service of God. Just see here, we have something flashing in the chat. That was a prayer of the states. I'll bring back. Okay, so we're saying here, Travis is asking, what will be in the future with regards to slavery. So here we're talking about, again, the ideal. When the Torah was given, the society in which the Torah was given, right? So certain laws were given fitting the time and fitting the society. And the conditions changed. It doesn't mean that the Torah changes, but it means that again, these laws were a dispensation, not necessarily that we strive to have slavery in our world. Okay, so again, we strive for a world in which mankind is free to serve God. Someone who finds I'm reading in 26. Someone who finds a lost object should seek to find the owner in order to return it to him. All right, it's coming straight out of the Torah. Let's see the verse here. We have it in Deuteronomy 22. Practically speaking, I remember asking a rabbi about this a couple of years ago, because you could say, I found a whatever a notepad here, found a pen here. Do I need to go now? Is it a biblical commandment now to go and find the owner? Basically, the general principle is something that that somebody would be frustrated with losing. Okay, so if it's a Bic pen that costs 10 cents from Staples or from your office supply store, they're probably not going to be so bummed out about losing it. But you find a watch, you find a wallet. It sometimes happen here. Kids leave toys or something in the garden. So it's quite common in our neighborhood. Somebody puts up a sign, "Hey, I found this object. If you can call this number and give some identifying properties about it, then we'll be happy to return it to you." Okay, and this comes back to, I think we read it in the beginning of our chapter, that your friend's possessions should be as dear to you as your own. You would want that, right? Again, all coming back from the doing with your neighbor as you would like done to you, or not doing to your neighbor what you would not like done to you, right? So you wouldn't want anybody kind of taking your own possessions. And then making the effort to return what isn't ours. Is slavery also, Angelica asks, is slavery also considered when someone is in addiction to drugs? Perfect. So this is, again, this isn't exactly physical slavery. Angelica is asking about addiction. It's not only addiction to drugs, addiction to other substances. I heard Rabbi Shirky say in one of his classes that somebody should not behave, or somebody should, even good things, okay, and certainly bad things, a person should be freely choosing. Okay, a person should never feel that he must do something, right? That he has no choice in the matter. Okay, and it certainly it applies to right, negative things or addiction to negative behavior. But you could also say, expanding it greatly, but you could say it also involves kind of mindlessly, or you could say without choice, doing even good things, right? So a person, he goes to pray in the morning because that's the way he was raised, or that's what religious people do in the morning. No, we strive for everything that we do to come out of a free choice. I can do this or that, and I'm choosing to go the right way. So certainly, this is more of mental slavery to drugs, addiction to drugs or to other substances. We strive to free ourselves from this as well. I'm expanding it here even to even in our religious duties, that these behaviors too should be coming out of a place of free choice. Okay, 27. There are many laws Jews must follow concerning loaning with interest, or rather not loaning with interest, and it shows great piety for a Noahide to adhere to said laws, especially where the poor are involved. Nevertheless, regarding governmental institutions and banks, such piety should not be pursued, since their healthy operation is required for maintaining the economy. Okay, so Rabbi Shirky said once, how did he say it? A person could be totally upright, but he loans to his friend with interest, and he doesn't have a share in the world to come. Right? So here it's talking about certainly the specifically the poor, but But right, again, coming back to the general principle of our fellows' possessions being as dear to us as our own. Nevertheless, regarding the governmental institutions, okay, so this is this is above the letter of the law, and we need to have a working economy, and a working economy shouldn't kind of like take on these extra steps of piety. Okay, and also basically coming out of coming more or less straight out of the verses in the Torah. 28, no one should possess inaccurate commercial scales or other measuring devices, even if they are not in use. Okay, to distance ourselves as much as possible from crooked business dealings. Okay, and then you have to go and recalibrate, test your equipment to make sure. Okay, it could be a couple of grams here and there, as we said above. Robbery is in any value. Okay, so even if it's a couple of milligrams here and there, this is the level of uprightness that we strive for. Okay, so God bless you all. We finished chapter 7, and I think we're basically halfway done with the book. We're holding at 9:05. I think maybe we can at least start chapter 8. Rabbi Chaim, what's the plan for tonight?
We have another. We can give another 10 minutes. It's okay. It's fine.
Okay.
Fine. Just to start.
Okay. Okay. So moving on to specifically the prohibition of eating a limb from an animal, and it also talks about other things regarding animal suffering. Chapter 8. And as for me, I will establish, or Dan, maybe do you want to read the verses?
Done.
You have such a great voice.
About commercial scales, having inaccurate scales. I've been in arguments and debates, especially historically relatable arguments, and I find that there are those that will use inaccurate measurements of time, and I find that equal weights and measures even applies to a lot of ideology. It's not just commercial, but is Rabbi Shirky's position clear that scales only have to do with commercial? I mean, from me to you, gentlemen, I am absolutely positively not a young earth creationist, and I actually have difficulty dealing with a lot of young earth creationists because I don't see them using accurate measurements when it comes to time. They use multiple time this way, time that way, and it just isn't real. And so when you're dealing with a lot of early Torah, there's an issue. There's an issue there. So is it only on a commercial question? Commercial scale question?
I'm trying to make sure that I understand your question, Dan. Is your question about exactness, precision in business dealings with regards to time, that a person should be checking in and out of his timesheet, et cetera, very exactly? Or are you asking about the age of the universe?
Well, no, the point of time. You have to look at it factually as a measure. And I think that the law of equal weights and measures prohibits assigning metaphysical time, something unrealistic, something that's intangible or not common. That's my point, and has always been my point. But I know a lot of people have difficulty with it, and so just coming to terms, I find that if Rabbi Cherky has made that call that it's only on commercial scales, does it border on other things that can be measured? Time being one of them.
So I'm trying to figure out if your question is specific with regards to business dealings and possessions and robbery, et cetera, Dan, or again, if you're talking about like the age of the universe and how we fit that into the verses of the Torah, et cetera. I'm still not clear.
I know that there is a Hebrew point that has to do with theft of the mind, robbery of thought, stealing somebody's thinking. You can literally go so far as to seed negative or incorrect false ideas. And this is what we have saw coming out of Christianity for sure, seeding of false ideas and trying to sell it as something more than what it really is. And I believe that the harmony of Torah, the rightness or correctness of Torah that wants to establish the purity of truth, of emet, a lot of issues need to be haggled out, and I know that the weight of Torah's justice will balance this all out. But I think a lot of humans have difficulty accepting the reaches or the limits of Torah law. So this is why I was asking, was the measurements, even owning scales that are out of balance, was there listed in the prohibition? Is it only on a commercial level? And I just find that thought is commerce, if you will, today. You know, in our day and age, people peddle notion, people peddle thought. And don't get me wrong, I'm all in with this, and I value.
I don't know. I'm gonna just you'll forgive me. I'll try to paraphrase into basically I think three questions. One again regarding like the age of the universe. Travis is asking here about if the 6 days of creation are literal days of creation. I'll basically leave that question aside. It's a good question, but it's not like directly pertinent to our learning right now. There's the two questions regarding business dealings or dealings, interpersonal dealings. One is with regard to the workplace. So too with regard to let's say filling out a timesheet. If you, again, it's more or less what is commonly accepted, or if you knew that your boss would be ticked off with your behavior or not. So again, at my workplace, I don't know that they expect me or expect any of the employees to be exact with the timesheets to the second, right? So it's basically here and there. You make an honest judgment of what time you checked in, what time you checked out, how much time you spent on lunch, etc. It's basically what is more or less commonly done, what is commonly accepted. With regards to like theft of thought and theft of time, we said with regards to possessions that a person's a fellow's possessions should be as dear to you as your own. So to a person's life, a person's time. The time is money, right? Time is life. I could be doing other things with the time that a person's like blabbering and wasting our time with idiotic stuff or bad ideas. That's I don't know if it's theft in the literal sense, but it's it's theft of time. And we strive to, as you said, to spread emet, to spread truth. And to use our time and the time of our fellows wisely.
Excellent. Well put. It's just great to see growth. So you want me to read these verses?
Sure. Michaela has here a question still about business dealings. She asks about services that are provided for customers whose business is negatively affecting people, like video games. I think it would greatly depend on the video game, Michaela. And there are certain things that are done for leisure, and leisure is not necessarily forbidden, right? It kind of depends on the content. Basically it depends. Please, Rabbi Chaim.
I will say two points regarding the question that Dan said. I want to mention that to steal someone's time is the most hardest thing to give back, because you can never ever give back time that you stole from someone. Let's say, for example, if someone is sleeping and I'm waking him up, so this time he will never get back. So this is something that we need to be very, very careful with. So this is a very important point. And point number two, I'm putting on the chat, I think that Daniel can put it also on the chat of the other things, a short video of something like 9 minutes, almost between 9 to 10 minutes, where a very high rank bishop from Africa, he had underneath him something like a few hundred priests, that he was leading. And he left everything and he became a Noahide. And he's explaining in 10 minutes, he's summarizing some sort of a seminar that we gave in South Africa. Okay, I gave the seminar and he's explaining it, but he's explaining in very nice way how exactly the Christian world lied or took not the right things to try to convince others to behave in the Christian way. So he's doing it, he's nailing it in a very nice way. So because you mentioned it, Dan, so I'm passing this link. It's a very, again, it's a short video, but it's a very nice one. So it's very with a lot of metaphors, so you will manage to see that. I think that yes, this is but I sent it on the chat.
Yeah, we put it in the chat here in the Zoom, just so those who can see our screen can see the.
Yeah, I put it on YouTube as well.
Great.
I think let's I think we can stop tonight, and we'll start next time. We'll start in chapter 8, where we're flipping up. You know, most of the people here know exactly what is the records of the old 50 and 60 years old, 60 years ago, when we flipped it from one side to another side. Remember that? You remember those black? How did you call it?
Records.
Yes, the black record that you flip from one side to another side. So tonight we flipped from one side to another side. We just finished half of the book and we're flipping to the other side. So thank you very much, Lee, for everything. Feel good. And all of you have a blessing week. And see you hopefully next week. Next week we are continuing on. This week we have a very important day where we're memorizing the Holocaust people who got killed in the Holocaust, 6 million people. And next week we are going to celebrate the Independence Day of the Hebrew people, of us coming back to Israel. But next week we have another lesson. So thank you very much, everybody, and good night. See you all.
All right, so till next week, folks, have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Thank you, everybody.